Welcome to Not That AA, episode 8. And I'm Allie.
I'm AJ.
And thank you for listening to us tonight or morning, whenever you're listening. First off, we'd like to address our apologies for having gone so long without a new podcast because we've been quite busy in the past few months. An amazing thing happened to us, and do you want to tell them what that is?
We got married!
Yay! So yes, we are now husband and wife legally. We got married at Disneyland, which was so much fun. I highly recommend Disney weddings now. I mean, we didn't actually spend that much because, we're pretty broke, but the staff there was just so amazing and made everything so magical.
It's appropriate, too, because a couple episodes ago, we were talking about how much we love Disneyland. If you recall, talking about the Star Wars thing that's going on. And in fact, since we talked about that, they're going to build a Star Wars land now. So there was a lot of construction when we were there.
Yes. So when we were there, they had already shut down the railroad and Tom Sawyer Island and Fantasmic. And so they are working on that. And I believe the railroad should be up again next year.
Sometime next year.
So so that is our reason for being gone. Also, I started a new job recently, and so that's kept me busy. I'm very happy with the change so far, so hopefully things will continue on this upswing. Mm-hmm. And again, we thank you for your patience and for taking time out to listen to us. Mm-hmm. So we have been, in this interim, we have been playing games. So it's not like we went video game free or anything like that. And one of the games that we've been playing most recently is Just Cause 3. Mm-hmm. Or Just Cause, however you want to pronounce it. It's kind of like a play on words.
Just Cause.
Yes. So I thought it was a really fun game. I didn't like the fact that there wasn't automatic targeting. It was really hard to aim. Mm-hmm. But what we wanted to discuss was we both had different strategies for taking over enemy bases. So go on and start with your strategy first.
So I like to have an advantage when I take over bases. So it's kind of like, I guess, a lot of the open world games where you kind of conquer different bases to unlock a certain area so you can move on with the missions. And the thing with Just Cause is you have weapons, but you get overwhelmed so fast. Mm-hmm. And what happens when you go to a base is a lot of times an enemy helicopter will show up. So what I'll do is I'll grapple up to the helicopter and fly just outside of the range of the SAMs, and I'll just blow everyone up. And that's worked pretty well so far.
That's really effective. And the thing is that sort of style, I've seen it with you playing games in general. Mm-hmm. And you're more of the stay on the outside and attack from the perimeter. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've even seen that when we played Diablo together, and you would be like, is it a wizard? Yes, or witch doctor or something. Yeah. And so those are magical attacks. Mm-hmm. But me, I'm a brawler. I like to run right into the middle of the fray. And so my attack method is a little more direct. You do get overwhelmed very quickly. So in order to counter those vulnerabilities, I would get onto the base, find the nearest vehicle, preferably a truck or some sort of large van, mm-hmm. and I would just start crashing into shit. So in order to blow up the fuel tanks and the transistors, I would just drive right into them, because the cars give you somewhat of a barrier mm-hmm. when you're in the midst of everything, and they're very good tools of destruction.
Your favorite's like that giant dump truck?
There's this giant dump truck, which is probably the size of a building.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's incredibly slow, but it'll destroy things pretty well.
See, that never worked for me. Every time I used that method, I got literally blown up within 30 seconds of getting into it.
You didn't know how to maneuver it like I can. It's because you drive this little dinky car and I drive a boat. Yeah. So that's probably carries over.
Maybe.
But anyways, so We also, big news, they have announced a new Red Dead Redemption game, which is funny because about a month ago, I pulled out our copy of Red Dead Redemption and started going back to playing it because I absolutely love just the Western genre in general. And we started playing and doing the missions and everything, and then seeing the announcement, it really made me happy. That's something I'm definitely gonna buy as soon as it launches.
Maybe even the collector's edition, because it's... But does Rockstar usually do collector's editions?
I don't know.
I don't think they did one for the original. Maybe like a special, like, one with Season Pass or something.
I'm just glad that it's actually a Red Dead Redemption game because I was afraid that it was going to be a Magnificent Seven game, which I haven't seen the movie yet. I kind of want to see it, but I think Chris Pratt has become so pervasive. I don't want to see anything else with him. I mean, because he's already in all the Lego shit, and it's like no more Chris Pratt, no more.
Clearly not a Chris Pratt fan.
I'm not. I hate. He's such an idiot in real life too.
I think it's interesting because I guess just pop culture in general goes through these phases, right? So, like last year and for a couple of years before that, the big thing was zombies and undead. Yeah. So that's when you had all the zombie games, right? Like Left 4 Dead, you had, the Walking Dead, which is still going on. Fear the Walking Dead, and then you have all these other zombie games come out. And I guess maybe there's like a Western revival right now because you have, of course, they brought back the remaster. Well, not the remaster. They brought back backwards compatible versions of Red Dead Redemption on the Xbox One. And they recently just allow you to play, I think, Red Dead Revolver on PS4. Yes. And you have the Magnificent Seven, and of course, a really big series that just started is Westworld.
Oh yeah, the HBO series.
So I have a feeling that they kind of chose this time to announce it. Maybe not planned. Maybe it was just like, oh, let's strike the iron while it's hot. Because they're like, oh, Westworld is so popular, this would be a great time to announce our game so people know that we're working on it. Yes. Because Rockstar usually doesn't announce stuff that early.
Which, and just, I guess, just a side note having to do with Westworld, it is a really awesome show.
Ed Harris is like pure evil, but...
Yes.
Like... He's very, I guess, he's an enigma. I think that's the right way to describe it.
Yeah, you don't know exactly who he is or what he is.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, in the show, not to spoil or anything, but it's really expensive, right, to be a part of the whole Westworld experience. Yeah. And he's been there since the start, so it makes you wonder what his involvement with the whole thing was.
Exactly. It's kind of like... And for those of you who haven't seen Westworld or whatever, it's kind of like a Western had rough sex with Ex Machina. So
yeah, I guess you could say it like that.
So it's really interesting. And also another new show that you and I have been watching is Timeless on NBC. And originally I just wanted to watch it because I've been in love with Goran Vishnik for a long time. And I must admit, I don't find him as attractive as I used to, and his character is a little weak. But I don't know. I think it's a good show. I don't really think it's a great show.
If I were to be entirely honest, I'm trying really hard to get into it because, you said you find it really interesting because of the character. But to me, it feels kind of flat. Like... The premise is interesting.
Exactly. The premise has the potential to be really amazing.
But, like, every time they made it seem like, oh, something really urgent is happening, I'm just like, I don't feel it. Like, there's so many plot holes to me in the show that it just... Something just doesn't feel right about it.
I think that there's a problem with casting and acting in it. I think the material in and of itself is pretty good. But, like I said, I think Goran Vishnik's performance is a little flat. He's a very one-dimensional villain so far. I mean, you know that there's a backstory to him, but you don't really know what it is, but it's not really kind of reeling you in, you know? The guy who plays Rufus is good. I like him. The soldier is really so generic. Like, he's kind of like a stereotype. And I think he needs to have, it's like traumatized soldier whose wife got murdered. You know, I mean, that has the potential of being such an emotionally heavy role, but he's just like, oh, hey, look at me, I'm pretty, and I can shoot.
Stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna kill. I'm not gonna follow orders. Blah blah blah. And then the lead, I forgot what her name is. Something Stevens. I don't remember. She was great in Suits. As
she was Donna, I think.
No, Dana. It was Dana.
Yeah.
She was great in Suits. Really went well toe to toe with Harvey, but her character seems really neurotic and kind of spastic and sad. Which, okay, I give her. She's in academia, so that could explain a lot. But it's just, I don't know. There's something that really isn't quite coming together.
I don't think it's the characters. I honestly think it's the writing.
You think it's the writing?
Because, I mean, even if you aren't a science fiction nerd and you're just looking at the surface, there's so many things about this show's plot that doesn't make sense. And on top of that, they go to these time periods that have such interesting events. Like, a little spoilers here. They went to when the Hindenburg was, Hindenburg, yeah. And it just feels like it was supposed to be this, like, historic event, right? Of, like, epic proportions. And when they portrayed it in the show, I was just like, it's not that interesting. Like, and then I think they went to Vegas after that, and that was pretty boring to me too.
I know, Vegas with the Rat Pack and JFK. Yeah. How could that possibly have been boring?
And then I think the next episode they're going to, I guess, Nazi Germany. I mean, even from the preview, like, it doesn't make me all that excited.
I don't know where they went in the second episode. You thought that they left off with the other... But I thought I saw a clip in the intro where she was dressed like from the 1800s. So I don't know if they went further. I don't know. I'm going to have to read up on that.
See, that's a bad sign, okay? So we missed the second episode of the show. And
it didn't matter.
And it didn't matter. Like, literally, it made no difference in our comprehension of what's going on.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's other, movies and stuff that we need to keep up with. It's just that we had been so busy that we just kind of got behind on some stuff. So, let's see, what else?
We played Deadpool.
Oh, yeah. Deadpool is funny. It is a short game, but if you like the type of humor that you see, like, on South Park, we're huge South Park fans, and it's great. It is so stupid and funny.
I think it's interesting. We have all these games. Like, I think Deadpool, it's been out for a while, and also Just Cause 3. They have interesting or funny premises for the game, and the story is not that bad, but the gameplay is mediocre at best. And I think that's a problem with a lot of recent games. Like, I think the most recent one in memory that I want to play is Mafia 3. So everyone says the writing and the acting is absolutely superb, but the gameplay is just terrible. Which is sad because you put all that production effort into voice acting and all the cinematics only to have it, be kind of dragged down by the gameplay itself, which is kind of the core of the game, right? So I don't know what's going on with games lately, but it feels like you either have like really, really amazing gameplay or you have really, really amazing story, and it feels like you can't have both.
It's so hard to balance because each of those aspects are so budget heavy. So I think it's very difficult for developers to find that kind of happy medium. Like, for example, me speaking as someone, I play video games, but I'm really not very good at them. So for me, something like Deadpool or Just Cause and stuff like that, where I don't die every 2 minutes, which granted sometimes I did die every 2 minutes, but I didn't want to like shoot the TV. Mm-hmm. So I think what they're trying to do, or what some of them might be trying to do, at least the ones that are more story heavy, are trying to lure in kind of like more casual gamers mm-hmm. with the story, something interesting. So it becomes kind of like watching a show. You know, you want to find out what happens next.
I think the biggest game that successfully did that was, we talked about this before, and that was Until Dawn. It did mm-hmm. an amazing job at balancing gameplay and kind of telling like a good story.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think the trend now is you have all these sequels, right, mm-hmm. to games, and they're the ones with the excellent story now. Because, mm-hmm.
For
example, I believe it was Call of Duty. I think Amy Hennig from Naughty Dog is now working on their single-player campaign.
Wow.
And Battlefield 1, preliminary reviews just came out, and it sounds like it's got a really engaging story and really good gameplay. So what's happening is you have all these franchises that's built up their gameplay system over multiple iterations. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like perfected. And now they have the time to go back and say, okay, how can we make a good story out of the existing tools we have? So that's something that I think Battlefield is supposedly doing really well, mm-hmm. which is interesting because it's happens in World War One, and a lot of the criticism people had was World War One was too visceral, right? Like, there's a lot of horrifying combat, like trench warfare during World War One, and a lot of hand-to-hand combat, like gassing and stuff like that. And they're wondering, how could you possibly make that interesting? You know, you're just like jumping out of a trench and getting shot and then dying and then starting over again.
Yeah.
But apparently they figured it out, so it'd be interesting to see.
I think that time period, World War One, is kind of underrated anyway. There's a lot of interesting things that happened at that mm-hmm. time, that whole Edwardian age. So I'm looking forward to that, and I liked watching the video with a tiny gun. I think is it a Doughboy? It's called a Doughboy or something?
I don't remember.
It's a little tiny ass gun. But anyways, so we're gonna wrap this episode up, because we don't want it to be too long, and also we want to save some material for future podcasts. Sometimes we do strange but true news, but really it's election season and there's already a lot of weird shit going on.
Trump.
Yeah.
Strange enough. No more need for extra strange news.
Yes. But if you want a good giggle, you can look at some of the third party candidate stuff goings on too. So
yeah, I don't think there's any shortage of strange things going on nowadays.
Yes. America is heading into its series finale.
Some people just like to see America turn into a giant dumpster fire. So, hey. We'll see what happens. Anyways, thank you for joining us again, and we'll talk to you later. See you next time.